yourself are shaping your life right now, whether you realize it or not. Every moment, your mind is searching for answers. And the answers it finds depend entirely on the questions you feed it. Ask weak questions, and you get weak answers. Ask powerful questions, and suddenly your world starts to shift. When something goes wrong, most people ask, why does this always happen to me? That question quietly trains the brain to look for blame, for limits, for reasons to feel powerless. And the mind is very obedient. It will always prove you right. It will dig up every memory, every mistake, every past failure just to support that question. Before you know it, you're not just having a bad moment, you're building a negative identity. But imagine asking a different question in the exact same situation. Instead of, why me? Ask, what is this trying to teach me? Or, how can I use this to become stronger? Now your brain starts searching for opportunity instead of excuses. The situation may not change immediately, but your state does. And when your state changes, your actions change. When your actions change, your results change. This is why two people can experience the same event and walk away with completely different lives. One person lets it break them. The other lets it build them. The difference isn't luck, talent, or background. It's the quality of the questions they consistently ask themselves. Your questions decide what you focus on. Focus decides what you feel. And what you feel determines what you do. If you keep asking questions that make you small, you will keep living a small life. But if you start asking questions that demand growth, courage, and solutions, your mind will rise to meet that demand. You don't need to change everything at once. Just change the question. Because the moment you take control of your inner dialogue, you stop reacting to life and start directing it. And that single shift can change everything. Small decisions don't feel powerful in the moment, but they are quietly shaping your future every single day. Most people think change requires a dramatic breakthrough, a massive opportunity, or a perfect plan. In reality, your life is being built in the smallest moments, the moments when no one is watching and nothing feels urgent. Think about it. One extra hour wasted scrolling seems harmless. One day of skipping discipline feels insignificant. One excuse doesn't look like failure. But stack those choices together and they become a lifestyle. In the same way, one good decision may not change your life today, but repeated over time, it changes who you become. Success is not the result of one big win. It's the result of winning small battles consistently. Waking up when you said you would, keeping your word to yourself, choosing growth over comfort when it would be easier to quit. These moments don't make headlines, but they make character. The reason most people stay stuck is because they underestimate the power of repetition. Your brain and body are always learning. Every repeated action becomes a habit. Every habit becomes a belief. And every belief shapes your identity. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your daily standards. That's why lasting change never starts with doing something extraordinary. It starts with doing something ordinary consistently with intention. A small improvement today is not small in the long run. It compounds, just like money, just like skills, just like confidence. So stop waiting for a massive moment to change your life. The moment is already here. It's hidden in the next choice you make. Choose better once, then choose better again. Because when small decisions become daily decisions, they turn into a life that looks extraordinary from the outside, but was built quietly from the inside. Most people are not stuck because they lack talent, intelligence, or opportunity. They're stuck because their comfort zone has quietly become their prison. The human brain is designed to keep you safe, not to make you great. So it will always try to pull you back toward what feels familiar, even when what's familiar is painful, limiting, or unfulfilling. Here's the hidden trap familiarity feels like safety. You may complain about your situation, but at least you know it. The unknown, on the other hand, feels risky. So the mind creates convincing excuses. No isn't the right time. I'll start when I'm ready. What if I fail? These thoughts sound logical, but they're just fear dressed up as reason. People don't avoid change because it's hard. They avoid change because it threatens their identity. If you grow, you might outgrow old habits, old relationships, or old versions of yourself. And letting go of who you've been can feel scarier than staying where you are. So many people choose certainty over possibility, even when certainty is costing them their dreams. Another reason people stay stuck is because they attach meaning to past failures. One setback becomes proof that they're not good enough. One rejection becomes a permanent label. Instead of seeing failure as feedback, they see it as a verdict. And the moment you believe a verdict about yourself, you stop trying to improve. But growth begins when you realize this truth. Discomfort is not a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you're doing something new. Every level of success requires a new level of tolerance for uncertainty. You don't get confidence before you act. You earn it by surviving what you once thought you couldn't. The moment you stop asking for comfort and start asking for growth, everything shifts. You stop waiting for fear to disappear and start moving with it. And that's when being stuck is no longer possible, because progress, even uncomfortable progress, creates momentum. Most people believe life controls them. They wake up reacting to messages, to problems, to other people's moods, to circumstances they feel powerless to change. When you live this way, every day feels like damage control. You're always responding, never leading. And over time, that creates exhaustion, frustration, and the feeling that life is happening to you instead of for you. But there is a massive shift that happens when you stop reacting and start directing. Direction begins with awareness. You notice where your attention goes. You notice what triggers you. You notice the patterns that repeat again and again, because you can't change what you don't consciously see. The moment you become aware, you create space. And in that space, you get to choose. Reacting is automatic. Directing is intentional. Reacting says, this is just how I am. Directing says, this is who I choose to be. One comes from habit, the other comes from purpose. And a purpose always creates power. When something unexpected happens, you always have two options. You can let it control your emotional state, or you can decide the meaning you give it. Meaning is everything. Two people can face the same challenge. One sees it as punishment, the other sees it as preparation. One feels defeated, the other feels driven. The event didn't change. The interpretation did. Directing your life means deciding in advance how you will respond, deciding what standards you live by, deciding what you will no longer tolerate from others and from yourself. It means choosing your focus deliberately, because whatever you focus on grows. Focus on problems and they multiply. Focus on solutions and you build momentum. The most powerful people in the world are not those with the fewest problems. They are the ones who have trained themselves to stay in control of their state no matter what happens. When you master your state, you master your actions. When you master your actions, you master your results. And that's when life changes from something you survive into something you create. The most powerful change you can ever make doesn't start with your environment, your resources, or even your goals. It starts with your standards. What you demand of yourself when no one is watching. What you allow into your life, what you decide is acceptable, and what is no longer negotiable. Most people live on preferences. They say, I'd like to be more confident, or I want to be successful, or I hope things get better. But preferences are weak. They disappear the moment things get uncomfortable. Standards are different. Standards say, this is who I am now. When something becomes a standard, you don't need motivation. You act automatically because it's part of your identity. Think about it. If your standard is honesty, you don't negotiate with yourself about telling the truth. If your standard is growth, you don't quit when it gets hard. You adjust and keep moving. The moment you raise your standards, your behavior has to rise to meet them. Here's the mental shift that changes everything. Stop asking what you want and start deciding who you must become. Goals focus on outcomes. Identity focuses on action. And when your identity changes, your habits change without force. Raising your standards may feel uncomfortable at first. You may disappoint people. You may have to let go of old patterns that once felt normal. But that discomfort is temporary. The pride of living in alignment with your values lasts. You don't rise to the level of your wishes. You rise to the level of what you refuse to tolerate. And the moment you decide that average is no longer acceptable, that excuses no longer define you, and that growth is your new normal, that moment becomes the turning point. Because when your standards change, everything else must follow.